What happens when you spend a lifetime building a fortress of success, only to discover the foundation is made of sand? When a dream is so close, you can taste it, but the cost of holding it blinds you to the only thing that truly matters. Is true prosperity measured by the size of your compound wall, or by the peace within its gates? This is the heart of the matter. In the bustling sprawl of Lagos, just beyond the quiet hum of generators, a couple stood on the precipice of their greatest ambition. They believed they had outrun their past, they did not know it was waiting for them at their front door. The stakes were nothing less than their very souls. Everything they had acquired, the respect, the wealth, the envy of their neighbors, would either stand as a testament to their character or as a tombstone for their love. This isn't just a story about a midnight visitor. It's a story about the distance between having everything and having enough. Before the truth came knocking, there was Benjamin. A man of tireless ambition. A builder. A husband. Welcome to Stories by the King, where every story carries a heartbeat, and every truth demands to be heard. Now, before we begin, where in the world are you watching from? Is it morning in Accra, evening in Johannesburg, or midnight in London? Drop your location in the comments below, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you don't miss the next truth. Now, lean in. Because this isn't just about what they saw, it's about what they finally allowed themselves to see. The house of Benjamin and Grace was a fortress built of sweat, cement, and a relentless desire to forget where they came from. It stood 2 stories tall, crowned with an aluminium roof that glinted under the harsh African sun, utterly dominating the row of humble bungalows in the fast-growing suburb of Ibejuleki. Benjamin was a building contractor who had clawed his way from a construction site apprentice to owning his own successful farm, and his house was his declaration, "We have arrived." Inside, the air conditioning purred, a constant, low-level drone that drowned out the clamor of the street. It was an island of cool, artificial calm. They had one child, a daughter named Favor, who was now away at university in Canada, a final, shimmering trophy on their shelf of achievements. But tonight, the house felt less like a sanctuary and more like a cage, its marble floors reflecting the anxiety that lived just beneath the surface of their polished lives. Benjamin sat by the window, the glow of his tablet illuminating the worry lines etched deep into his forehead, counting the profit margins on his latest, biggest contract, a luxury estate for a powerful politician. Grace moved like a shadow in their spacious kitchen, rinsing a single teacup, the rhythmic sound of running water the only sign of life. She had everything the women of their village had once dreamed of: foreign lace, a new SUV, a freezer stocked with imported food. Yet, the deep, satisfying peace that wealth was supposed to buy had never materialized. Lately, an old dream, one she had long buried, had started to stir restlessly within her, the dream of opening a simple community creche, a place for the children of the poor laborers who built her husband's beautiful, cold houses. She had brought it up to Benjamin 2 weeks ago, and the look he gave her, a mix of pity and disbelief, had shut her down instantly. "Sentimental nonsense, Grace," he had said, not unkindly, but with a finality that felt like a slap. "We are beyond that now. People like us don't look back, we look forward." The words echoed in her mind, look forward, look forward. But she felt like she was trapped on a treadmill, running fast but going nowhere. The clock on the wall chimed softly, it was exactly 1 a.m. Benjamin had just put his tablet down, frustrated by a late payment that threatened to derail his contract. A sharp, unfamiliar sound, like a piece of rock scraping against glass, sliced through the air-conditioned silence. Benjamin froze, his hand instinctively reaching for the heavy wooden carving on the side table. He was a man who trusted his walls and his security systems more than he trusted people. Grace's breath hitched in her throat. The sound came again, closer this time, near the front door. They exchanged a look, a raw, unedited glimpse of their shared fear, that momentarily stripped away the years of ambition and polished pretense. Intruders. In this part of town, that word carried a swift, brutal finality. "Stay here," Benjamin whispered, his voice tight. Grace shook her head, her face a mask of terror. No. Call the security guards. Benjamin moved towards the front door, silent on the thick Persian rug. The house had 3 layers of security, a high perimeter wall, an electric fence, and a heavy, steel-reinforced main door. No one could enter without an alarm sounding. Yet, there was no alarm. Only that strange, scraping sound. Then, a voice, low and clear, cutting through the thick wood of the door, speaking in their native dialect, a dialect Benjamin and Grace hadn't used in over a decade, a language of the village they had sworn to leave behind. Benjamin, son of Abraham. Grace, daughter of Esther. Open the door. I have been sent. Benjamin stopped dead, his fingers inches from the door latch. He knew that dialect. It was the tongue of his grandfather, the language of the rice paddies and the dust, the one they only used to curse or pray in moments of genuine desperation. Who knew his full name? Who knew their mothers' maiden names? And how could a stranger speak with such calm authority at this hour, bypassing every security measure? Grace stepped up behind him, her hand gripping his arm so tightly her nails dug in. Benjamin, don't, she pleaded, but her eyes held a terrible curiosity that mirrored his own. Against all logic, against all the expensive security protocols, Benjamin slid the heavy bolt back, the sound of the metallic tank echoing like a gunshot in the silent house. Standing on their spotless marble floor was not a thief, nor a thug, but a man who looked like a character from an ancient folktale. He was not old, but his skin was etched with the lines of sun and hard work, and he wore a simple, dust-covered brown robe tied with a faded sash. On his back, he carried a light wooden staff. He looked like an ordinary farmer, a man with no business standing in the pristine air of a Lagos mansion. But it was his eyes that arrested them, deep, warm, and disconcertingly familiar, like looking into a memory. The stranger stepped inside, and with his entry, the relentless hum of the air conditioning seemed to falter, the air growing thick, charged with the smell of wood smoke and damp earth. My name is Nathaniel, the stranger said, his voice quiet but carrying the resonance of a talking drum. I am a messenger. And I have traveled far from the old lands. Grace's eyes were fixed not on his face, but on his feet. They were bare, and yet the marble floor beneath them showed no trace of dust, as if he walked on air. Benjamin swallowed hard, the fear giving way to a cold dread of the supernatural. How did you get past the gate? Who sent you? He demanded, trying to inject his business authority into his voice. Nathaniel only smiled, a sad, knowing expression. The gates you build to keep the word out, Benjamin, are often the same ones that keep the truth in. Your father, Abraham, he sent me. The mention of his father struck Benjamin like a physical blow. Abraham had died 7 years ago, in the very village Benjamin had fled, a man Benjamin had never truly reconciled with. My father is gone, Benjamin stated flatly, his chest tightening with old, unresolved grief. He is in the ground. Nathaniel nodded slowly. The body is in the earth, yes. But the spirit is not silent. And it has a burden you carry without knowing. He paused, his gaze sweeping over the opulent living room, the oversized Italian leather sofa, the glass dining table, the flat-screen TV on the wall. You have built a large house, son of Abraham. But for whom did you build it? For yourself, or for the eyes of the village? Nathaniel then walked towards the wall where Benjamin displayed his prized possession, a framed photograph of his university graduation, beside it his first major contract signing, and a plaque honoring him as Developer of the Year. The messenger pointed to the plaque. This plaque tells me you are rich in concrete and steel. But your father asked me to tell you the story of a missing cornerstone. He turned to Grace, his eyes soft. Grace, daughter of Esther, your spirit is not at rest. The crash you dream of, the small hands you wish to hold, why do you not reach for them? Is the worry of what your neighbors think heavier than the burden in your heart? Grace let out a soundless sob, her hands flying to her mouth. No one outside her husband, not her friends, not her pastor, knew about her secret yearning. Nathanael stepped back and delivered his message, the words falling like heavy stones. When you left the village, you made a vow. You vowed to help rebuild the community center that burned down, the very one that your father helped build with his own hands. That fire, Benjamin, it allowed you to escape, but the oath you made to use your first great wealth to rebuild it, you broke it. You used the money for the marble floors you now walk on. Your father's spirit cannot rest because he sees your wealth as a house built on a lie, a betrayal of the community that raised you. Benjamin felt his world tilting. He had conveniently forgotten the vow, rationalized it away as the emotional promise of a poor young man. But the truth was an unshakable rock. The late payment you worry about, Benjamin, Nathanael said, his eyes drilling into him, the contract you fear losing, it is not bad luck. It is the cost of the lie. Until you lay the true foundation, the cornerstone of your honor, your wealth will only ever bring you anxiety and sleepless nights. He looked from Benjamin's face, gray with shock, to Grace's, wet with tears of recognition. The cornerstone is the promise you broke. The cornerstone is the charity you deny. You will know true peace, not when your account is full, but when you fulfill your oath. With that, Nathanael turned, and without opening the reinforced door, he vanished. The air conditioning hummed back to life, the smell of wood smoke faded, and the only evidence he had been there was the terrifying, undeniable truth hanging in the still air. Silence settled over the mansion, heavier and more profound than the sound of the air conditioning. It was a silence that contained 7 years of ambition, denial, and suppressed guilt. Benjamin stared at the spot where Nathanael had stood. The messenger hadn't stolen a dime, hadn't threatened him, yet he had stripped him of everything, his pride, his excuses, his comfortable belief that he was a self-made man who owed nothing to anyone. The man's words, simple and direct, had shattered the illusion of his success. He looked at the framed accolades and saw only gilded lies. He looked at Grace, and saw his partner in denial, her face a mirror of his own devastation. Grace walked slowly to him, her tears falling freely now. "The creche," she whispered, the words catching in her throat. "The community center, it's the same thing, isn't it? A place for the children, a place for the community. I wanted to start small, but even that felt too hard, too risky, too far beneath the status we had built." She placed a hand on Benjamin's arm. "We have been living for the audience of the world, Benjamin, not for the peace of our hearts. The house is beautiful, but it holds no joy." The truth was a sharp blade, cutting through their pride. They had been so focused on climbing out of the mud that they hadn't realized they were living inside a gilded prison, its walls built from their forgotten oath. The next morning, Benjamin drove his SUV not to the construction site of the luxury estate, but to the dusty village he had not seen since his father's funeral. The community center was exactly as he had left it, a burnt-out shell, a grim skeleton of an old promise. He stood there, feeling the heat of the sun on his face, the dust coating his expensive shoes, and a profound sense of shame washed over him. The contract with the politician, the one that had caused him such anxiety, now felt hollow and unimportant. He sat on a broken cement block, the earth warm beneath him, and pulled out his phone. He cancelled the meeting with his client. Then, he called his chief foreman. Within a month, the elegant, modern structure for the politician was put on hold. All of Benjamin's best workers, his trucks, his materials, and his focus were redirected. The local villagers watched in astonishment as the disgraced contractor, the prodigal son, returned not to gloat, but to rebuild. Grace was with him every day, her own face now glowing with an inner light that had been missing for years. She helped design the community creche on the lower floor, a large, sunny space with brightly colored walls and simple wooden toys. Benjamin didn't cut a single corner. The new center was built with the same meticulous care, the same expensive, high-quality materials he used for his luxury homes. He was building his cornerstone. On the day of the center's official opening, Benjamin and Grace stood side by side. The villagers, young and old, streamed into the spotless hall, their faces alight with gratitude and a renewed sense of hope. When Benjamin stepped up to speak, he didn't talk about his company's success or his technical prowess. He simply told the true story of the stranger at midnight, the messenger, and the oath he had broken. "I was a rich man living in a poor man's house," he confessed, his voice thick with emotion. "And I was a poor man living in a rich man's house." It took a spirit message to remind me that the foundation of a good life is built not on cement, but on character. He pointed to a simple, carved stone placed subtly at the main entrance. "This is the cornerstone." It reminds us that our true worth is not what we keep, but what we give back. Their eyes met, and in that moment, as the joy of the community washed over them, they finally felt the peace that their luxury fortress had never been able to buy. Benjamin never did get the big, lucrative contract back, but 5 years later, his company, now renamed Cornerstone Builders, was known across the country for building honest, vital community spaces, not just mansions. He and Grace lived in a much smaller, but infinitely happier home, the sound of laughter replacing the drone of the air conditioner. The lesson they learned was simple: you can run from the village, but you can never run from the oath you made in your heart. True prosperity is not an external possession, but an internal alignment. And a heart that chooses love over luxury, character over cash, and purpose over prestige, will never lead you wrong. If this story moved you, hit like, share it, and tell me in the comments, what is the missing cornerstone in your own life that you need to put right. Subscribe to Stories by the King, where every ending brings a lesson worth remembering. This is Stories by the King, where love wins, and purpose finds its home.